Yeah, I can do that. Not a problem. Hello, everybody. This is the sprint review session for 9/20 sprint. We have on the phone at least confirmed so far Rob as well as I believe Greg. As you can see, we're here to talk about the summit, which is coming up, and I'm guessing a lot of people that are actually going to be, doing work here in the community and so on and so forth are going to be here, so it makes sense to meet up there. And Rob has actually started that process already, as you can see on the link. So talking about the core workflow and the the jobs framework around, I'm assuming the queue and all of that kind of stuff, and various other topics that I'm guessing Rob will go through one by one as we move along here. So with that, I'm handing it over to Rob, and then I'll actually be taking notes while Rob talks. I've noticed last week how painful it is to actually speak at the same time while taking notes. So I'll take that off your back.
Yeah, and so one of the things I like to do for this is throw it open for other potential topics that we can do. This is supposed to be the less agenda-driven meeting and more design topics that people think are pressing. So we can do that. The objective here is that we're staging things up so that on Thursday when we sit down to talk, we know what we're going to work on. Okay. So does anybody on the phone? I haven't heard other voices. Sorry, can you hear us? Can you please acknowledge? And Adam, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Great.
You can hear us.
Thank you. So are there topics that we want to add in besides the ones we've been pulling forward sprint by sprint? Sure, you've been working on the documentation. We can talk about that more in review, I guess, and see if there's items or work that you need help with on that. Adam, is there a design topic or something that's on your mind? As always, one of the things I'm interested in making sure that we do and discuss is Dell able to create a SUSE build environment. So that this might actually be a very good topic for us for today. Pull from source is going to be a subject at the debate. Is going to be a subject at the summit. It's probably worth discussing, but I don't think Andy Abe's is on the phone. He's got another call right now. But we can discuss it and then see if... so this is .xcode. Other items? Otherwise, we'll just go through that. Greg, if you're on, did you want to talk through core workflow and jobs this time? Should we budget some time for that, or do we want to push back a little bit?
I haven't worked at it or looked at it.
Okay. Yeah, wait, leave it in. Please don't take it off. We'll just keep pushing it forward. Yeah, one of the things I want to do is, hopefully, Adam, you can speak for the SUSE team who's going to come in. So, what I was hoping to use this time for is organizing around the summit a little bit, but more importantly, make sure that we know and have discussed items that need to go in the next sprint plan to coordinate with SUSE, assuming that engineering resources are going to come in. If we're not ready for that, then we can talk about other things. But I was hoping to let that drive the agenda so that we have pre-staged it for Thursday. Adam?
No, that's Jim switching phones.
Okay. No, I see Adam on the list, but I don't see him on the join me session. Okay. So, do you have anything to bring up or items that you want to discuss about that? Okay, that's cool. So typing's fine. Why don't I do this? Why don't we start on OpenStack, and then when you work out your mic, you can just tell us. Okay. I'm still very keen on making sure that we collaborate to make sure that we can duplicate or at least build a SUSE environment. You know that's a high priority for me. So if there are things that we need to do to help with that, it needs to get on our list so that we can make sure we budget time for it. Okay. So OpenStack, what I've been doing is working towards, sorry, it's over here. I'm hoping people will collaborate with this. Since we have a fair number of Crowbar people at the summit, it makes sense to me to try and find a time for that. There are a couple open items in the schedule that we can grab and actually do a summit. Even potentially during the summit proper, there's opportunities to do ad hoc types of discussions. So I'm hoping to build up people's schedules and see that. I am not planning to do it Monday or Tuesday because that's when all the deployment sessions are, and I'm assuming we'll be involved in that. And I'm busy on Monday anyway. Sunday PM might be a time when we could have a one-on-one meeting if people want to have one-on-one meetings. Friday AM is the community service time, so I'm reluctant to inject into that. So it looks like it would be Wednesday or Thursday. If you find times that you think would be good for that, please bring it up. Also, I'd like to bring up agenda. If we know this in advance, then we can do things like pull in ops code and Puppet. So, and let them know that we're going to do it. It's possible that we want to actually have targeted sessions. CMDB integration itself is a big topic. Jobs engine. We can talk about that. I don't know, Greg, how far along. Probably not much further along in the design, but we can do that. We haven't done the API, and then we also need to talk about the process. So we had a whole bunch of things about process resolution. I think we need to do that. The good news is we'll have a broader audience, so I can bring in Scott Jensen, who never can make this because he's got a conflicting meeting at the same that he runs. So other agenda items that people want to make sure we cover for a face-to-face meeting at the summit? Okay, meeting's going to go fast.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add right off the top of my head for that meeting. I mean, I guess I'm assuming by that point we'll have made some good progress on, you know, the way that we test Crowbar 2 on SUSE. So there might be some continuation items from that, but hopefully that won't be the first time that we make any progress on it.
Right. Well, I want to resolve this. We need to talk about bugs and CI systems, right? So hopefully we'll get closer on that. We're discussing internally too, so we can we can get that in a meeting spot. Okay, and I'm assuming you guys are working on trying to take advantage of the pieces that we already have. I know the last push I did, BDD was working 100%. All the tests I had in there were passing, and also the unit tests were passing for my last check-in. So we're getting in better and better shape. We just need to keep adding tests. That doesn't do a full CI run, and so you know what? There is actually an important topic in here. So I'm going to just add it to the top. So I want to do a definition of the MVP. C20. Yeah, a lot of acronyms. So one of the things that I think is really important, and actually might be a good topic even for today's meeting, is define CB2 ship ready. And I can explain. I want to do it in this order. Okay. Okay. So I'm trying for the summit. I'm trying to avoid. This is cool. This is actually this is the live Google Doc. So as things get pulled in, they actually get updated in here by the conference organizers. Okay, so I really do this time want to avoid getting evenings or off sites. It's just it's very disruptive to other things that are going on. Hopefully we can do it at the time. How should we notify people for this as we do the organization? It's going to happen during the summit.
You mean the logistics of the actual event,
yeah,
time and place?
So when we actually identify a time,
I was gonna, I was going to suggest for these weekly meetings, but it would apply equally, I guess, for this particular meeting as well, just to use Google Calendar events.
Cool. I like it a lot.
Right, and also announcing, I mean, we're continuing to do this, but announcing through the mailing list continues to be important, I think, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking the other day, you know, in terms of like time zone calculations and stuff, if there's just a Google Calendar that has it all in and you know, like has the dial-in numbers, you know, URLs and so on, all in one place, that would be really cool.
Hey, I like that. Yeah, because right now I'm updating it on the Crowbar 2 page, and that's less than ideal. It ends up being a calendar. But the other thing I would suggest we do is we can use the Twitter account for Dell Crowbar. Most people don't realize this, but if you tweet to this, I get a text. So if you include Dell Crowbar in, if I can spell Twitter, in a message, then I get notified about it. Still can't spell Twitter. I'm just, you know, I know at these events it gets fast and furious. I find email a mixed thing at the events. And we could either have a SMS calling chain, or we could do use Twitter or something like that. Do people have a preference?
I don't.
Okay. Okay. Let's leave it for that, and then we'll play it by ear. But if you know the event's coming and you don't know when it is, if you tweet to Dell Crowbar, I will be able to reply to you and get you an answer pretty fast. Okay. So we might cover this now, but I think this is worth doing face to face. CMDB integration. We actually have relevant experts there. It's probably worth trying to do that. API may or may not be a good topic for this because I think we can cover that in these design sessions. Job engine depends on design. And I think process this is actually very important. So because I think some things are easier to resolve face-to-face and some things are less. People agree with that? They have other... So far that makes sense?
Yep.
Okay. My objective is 2 hours max. Because we're there to talk about OpenStack, but if we need more, we'll take it. One of the things I'm hoping to do with this is not just make this an extension of this call, but allow it to be more community. So it'd be nice, part of our objective here would be include people who are not normally on these calls. That makes sense. Depending on the Sunday PM, it might work out that we can do some coordination. Some of this coordination Sunday night. Depends. I have no idea what Sunday night's going to look like yet. Cool. Anything else to add on here before I close down this part of this discussion? Cool. Let me talk about pull from source a little bit. Actually, I'd be interested. Greg, are you interested in defining pull from source? Just go ahead.
I can, or I mean, I have nothing really. I mean, go ahead. Why don't you do it?
Pull from source is something we actually defined pretty well in some of the background pages, and so let me pull that up so that we have the link for it. Okay, good. So I don't want to spend too much time redefining the use cases for it, but the idea is that in the current 1X release, we are expecting for the summit so we're going to, all right, so let me stop for a second. We should be branching for Betty before the summit. And then after that branch is made, then we'd be able to bring in the pull from source code for Folsom. And so pull from source for right now is very much about Folsom. So the idea is that we're trying to get closer to pre-packaged availability of deployment, and so pull from source allows us to actually pull directly from the OpenStack distro, OpenStack GitHub, and then deploy that code, which allows us to be faster than the distro packaging comes in. So, for example, in our last round, the Crowbar patch that came out, the Essex patch, took a while to make it through the distro paths, but we could have been testing the source or doing whatever design changes were necessary to implement the deployment scripts earlier by using the pull from source feature. I don't expect it to replace distributions. I just expect it to replace certain classes of adopters, like developers or scale deployments that have their own custom version and don't necessarily want to build a whole distribution for it. Does that make sense? The reason why I'm bringing it up is Andy's going to be talking about it at the summit. He has a session for it. I think it's an important technology for us, and I think it's going to be an important technology for Crowbar 2. And so I'm expecting that the work that's in the Betty branch for pull from source will also be translated over into Crowbar 2 as soon as we start making those migrations. Do people have questions about that? Greg, I'd turn it over to you to talk about how that was done more, because I'm not as familiar on the details of how that was implemented. Have you tracked it?
Nope.
Okay.
That's the point. It's been Andy and driving some of that.
Yeah.
I haven't really looked at it that closely. There were changes to the Nova and other Bark lamps to allow you to specify a Git repository. And I'm not sure what full parts were implemented or not.
Okay.
Like, did the GitHub, or did the Git Bark lamp get created, or did they just choose to do, or did Andy and the other teams drive that directly to just being able to make sure all nodes have ability to hit GitHub?
Right. So there's.
And I don't know for sure. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So we need Andy to talk about it, but the idea is that it's a pull from Git. I just haven't had time to investigate it either. And right, okay. So we're gonna hold off on that. I'm just flagging it as something to talk about at the summit, where we should get some more information, and hopefully we'll get some write up, and we'll talk about how those things are going. When we start pulling in Grizzly code for Crowbar 2, pull from source is going to be the logical place to do it, because we should be. I'm hoping we'll be ahead of the distros for that. Questions or comments about that? Okay. The purpose of these meetings is to give people a heads up so that we can look a couple sprints ahead and see what things of interest are going to be going on. And so I expect this to be a thing of interest, and also, since Andy's talking about it, we'll be able to talk through there. Okay. So let's talk about ship readiness. This is one of those topics that's going to be probably a long-term description. But what I think we need is some idea of what the Crowbar 2.0, I wouldn't say finish line is, but minimum function level is. And so, do people understand what I mean by that? Actually, I'm going to have to define it because I can't ask the question like that on. So here's the concept of ship readiness, and I've actually blogged about this and tried to explain it. And a lot of our testing efforts are focused on the concept of ship readiness. So ship readiness means that the code is in a state where at the end of a sprint, we could ship that code to a customer deployment or a field deployment. And what we want to be able to do is maintain the code at that level, right? So the purpose of the automated test is at the end of any at the end of any sprint, you could rely on the Crowbar framework as a functional framework. What that means is that new features that come in basically as split test, what in the industry I'm seeing called split test. And if you're not familiar with that term, I suggest you review Eric Ries. It's a marketing term that's been applied to engineering development, meaning that a new feature comes in but it's deactivated, so it'd be hidden under the development flag. We do this quite a bit. And so the idea here is that we want new capability to come in. We want it to be constantly coming in incremental steps, and then we expose it and bake it as it comes in. This is pretty normal for the way we've done things. The challenge right now is that Crowbar 2 is not ship ready. And until it is, we have a challenge of needing to maintain Crowbar 1. And so the minimum definition, the minimum definition of function level from my perspective for this is to be able to replace Crowbar 1, right? This is not particularly actionable, although it's a useful benchmark, I think, for us to describe. And so this is where I was going to invite some dialogue and discussion on what that actually means. So let me do it this way. Before I just do a lot of talking, anybody want to make suggestions on what this would mean?
Can it be upgradable?
So okay. So currently Crowbar 1 is not. Upgradable is definitely a Crowbar 2. Is definitely a Crowbar 2 target. So this is the thing that's funny about this definition. So there's things that we want to enable in Crowbar 2, like upgradability, that while essential for Crowbar 2 to be successful, are not necessary for minimum ship readiness. Does that make sense? It's a really good point. You're hitting exactly the heart of this. Right, so for example, this one might be, we need to be able to deploy OpenStack. Right, technically we could say Essex, because Essex is what is there, right? A stretch goal would be to deploy Folsom. Right, and this is, so now if you think about it, this is why pull from source is important to me, because if we deploy OpenStack using pull from source, then it's Essex or it's pull from source. So then we can do this. Right, so we've basically removed chef. Other items? And if they're Crowbar 2, that's fine. We'll just categorize them as we go. I don't mind having people throw out stuff that we want.
Well, I guess from our perspective, we have our CI system, and we have a complete kind of integration test suite, which we would want to see working. If that involves some adjustments to how the API or the command line is used, then that's fine. But the functionality that we have being exercised at the moment, we would want to see that passing. And we don't do anything fancy yet, unfortunately. But we're gradually fleshing it out.
Mm-hmm. So I would set this as a target. right now we're on 3 technically, 4 technically, and we need to build on at least 1, right? And so I would say SUSE would be the top. SUSE would be the top choice at this point. Actually, people see how this is going, right? Crowbar uses Chef. Right, these are things that we do in Crowbar 1 that would be regressions if we didn't have these minimum capabilities. Right. So, and for example, over here, objectives for 2.0 is multi-OS, right? Heterogeneous OS. None of these objectives for Crowbar 2.0 are being regressed, but we don't have a minimum working product that we can look at right now, and start QA doing a end-to-end pass on, right? So the objective here is UFI support in this.
I don't know if I call it a 2.0 item. We have other dependencies for it. For example, you have systems that have larger than 2 terabyte drives, or some of the more interesting systems nowadays don't necessarily support legacy BIOS boot easily.
So I'm going to expand the scope
But the point is, it's not currently.
It's not. This is new. Well, it's sort of in Crowbar 1. It's sort of not, right? But this is new. I don't mind it calling these things out. I want to put them in there, just like this is new, technically, but it's debt that we don't want to carry. We have this. Right, I mean, just like having documentation updated, right? This would be a target. So, but I'm trying. I want us to try and be focused so that we can get to an end-to-end test QA can start working on, and that also people in the community can pick up and run with. So the job scheduler becomes part of this, right? So we actually have to have orchestration updates. This is, to me, this comes back to as part of the database.
Is it worth setting any objectives around unit test coverage?
Yeah, that's what. Okay, so let's do this. Let me expand this bullet.
It's a good question. There are different coverage aspects to Crowbar versus the CMDB portions.
I think it's a reasonable statement to expect that every model would have some coverage. I find that if the models actually have some coverage, it's much easier to add tests. If they're completely missing, then it's less likely that we ever get those models covered.
Right, I was just calling out the fact that while we can have 100% code coverage of Crowbar, it only represents about 30% of our code.
Oh, that's entirely right.
Since most of it's actually in chef recipes.
That's right.
Now we want to try and change that to skew it where more code is in the Crowbar itself, but there will always be some code in the chef recipes, and so we haven't created a reasonable test framework for that yet. Or, to be fair, there's stuff coming and kind of available from the ops code guys that we should probably look into. But
so, do we want... I know that we're going to make progress in de-crowbarizing the cookbooks that we've got. That seems like something that we want to start, but we don't necessarily need to be 100% complete on for the MVP. Is that a reasonable statement? Or do we want to say that the cookbooks do need to be fully de-crowbarized?
I think it's a reasonable starting point.
Is there any way of loosely quantifying, how much change there is or needs to be?
So part of what I'm sorry, Adam, go ahead. Right. So part of what I'm thinking along those lines is that we want to make sure that we do enough changes here that we don't have architectural issues. But if it involves making changes throughout all the cookbooks because we've made a change, it seems like it would be, if we can leave it in place and then migrate it, that would be better for us. Right, so this would be, we want to prove the patterns. Right, so there is no requirement for legacy support of CB1X. I'm making these statements, but we need to, because I'm trying to define things. If you disagree, please speak up, because that's what I'm trying to drive a conversation.
You're kind of choppy on my side. I can't hear you.
Oh.
You're cutting out periodically.
Okay, I can switch to a different mic. Hold on, let me do that. I'm worried about messing up the recording is the problem. I'll do it anyway.
Just you're sounding better there. So
okay.
I don't know if you were leaning away from the mic or.
Is that better?
No,
I'm using Skype.
Skype as
my
mic instead of my phone.
That's better.
Good. Okay.
Okay.
There's a small risk that
I'm not recording just half the conversation, but that's.
I'm willing to take that risk.
I'm willing to take that risk for clarity for the people who are here.
Right. I'm trying to set some guidelines so that we know what our targets are. And
that we don't do extra work getting Crowbar 2 to ship ready.
Because I want us to
be able to actually discuss what the priorities are, the things that are not
core to replacing
1X. Until we've replaced 1X, we're vulnerable to people asking to go fix 1X.
Which takes us away from
Crowbar 2, where we actually have all these great new capabilities surfacing.
Which I've
defined.
I have a name for that.
I call it the Tippy Towers problem. Once again,
something I've
posted about in the past. I'll throw links in.
To both these things.
In
the chat.
In the chat. So let me.
So I was
trying to bring up a conversation about legacy support for 1X. I don't think we have a requirement to make bar clamps work for 1X.
But this may require
touching a lot of bar clamps.
So there's a test
impact and a regression impact if we don't provide legacy support.
People have a feel for that?
It's actually pretty hard, given some of the model changes.
That's what I'm wondering.
But
I don't think it's going to be an issue from our side. I mean, we're going to be, I expect we'll be changing a lot of stuff for our 2.0 release anyway, so, we updating some bar clamps should not, I would hope, wouldn't be such a big deal, especially if by this stage, with luck, we'll have, converged most of our stuff with you guys.
Good.
So any bar clamp changes could be sort of done in collaboration rather than having to deal with two sets of bar clamps.
Definitely.
So
from along those
lines,
up here, to the SQL bar clamp, right?
That's another one that we need to do.
So we're moving.
Not even confirmed.
Did you guys pull in?
The Tempest bar clamp?
I think we have it. We're definitely using Tempest in our CI runs. Whether we're using the bar clamp, I need to check that.
I think it's a
table stake
because it's embedded
for us. So
I don't see it as.
I
feel like I'm missing something
major in this list.
I was going to say, I don't know to what extent this is possible, but certainly for at least the test coverage and maybe other things, if there are any metrics we can automatically gather, that would be useful in seeing progress towards the ship readiness.
Okay. I like it.
I mean, I don't even. I mean, I guess maybe there's no practical way of quantifying de-crowbarization of cookbooks. I mean, unless there's some kind of simple, grep minus C kind of tricks that could be used for that. I don't know.
Actually, I have a very simple
measure for this.
The measure for this.
The measure for this is.
I don't think
we could put it in the automated test. Measure is cookbooks.
The cookbooks run
without Crowbar present.
Right. That's the test.
Right. That's the test.
So that requires some other way of. So just like manually.
Right.
How would you trigger that?
So you do a manual. You
assign the roles. So you would use the cookbooks, the roles that are defined in the cookbooks, manually to set up the system.
I mean, if that was easy to automate, then it might be worth it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. the thing I'm most concerned about
doing the pattern pieces.
Okay. The one I added was
seems
sort of obvious.
ISO and online install.
So this is
Dell's
pattern right now.
Dell's pattern right now.
This is Susei's pattern. So I think we're going to end up needing both Crowbar 1
as a Crowbar minimum statement, because that's the only thing that's going to satisfy
both
deployment patterns right now.
I think we've already got the security
story nailed, but
so I don't know
that I will call it out.
We don't have role. There's no.
I'm
not expecting us to
add yet. Role-based
security. But I think we do need some minimum. No, it's not in Crowbar 1.
No, it's not in Crowbar 1. Sorry.
So there's a whole bunch of user
security stuff.
Crowbar 2. Love to see it, but like change password. Add user. These are great things. We
should have them.
I'm not
backing away from where Crowbar 2 should be.
I'm trying to get us to a
ship-ready product
as part of that, as an
engineering milestone.
So that we can start.
So Rob, when you say role-based security, how deep do you want to go with that? I mean, I think that's probably a discussion we should have with marketing, because do we need more than 2 roles, an admin and an operator?
I have no idea, Jim.
It's entirely a design topic for a future
thing.
All I'm saying is that we're not doing it right now. Not what level we should do it.
Sure.
And Jim, actually, you hit the
nail on the head with the question of why ship readiness is so important to me.
Because then we can have
discussions over how much it should be, what its priority is, if we work on that instead of making Crowbar HA.
And then we can start doing trade-offs. Until we've reached
the items in this list,
we can't make trade-offs. Right, because we don't even replicate
Crowbar 1 with some minimum like UP and online.
Right.
This is entirely.
I'm trying to make it back to the point where our mutual marketing teams can start making suggestions and prioritization.
Trying to get engineering out
of the hot seat.
In ship readiness. That's the
purpose of ship readiness.
Yep.
Greg, Simon, seeing something in this list that I'm missing?
Important.
And we can go back and add to it.
Of course.
I haven't.
No, at this point, you probably have more things on ship readiness than what I would consider ship ready, but,
is there something that you would
pull out? Very inclusive.
Simon, what would you not
what would you not have? Ship readiness. It's probably outside the scope of this discussion. But target objective is not actually ship ready, right?
Sorry?
Target objective is not considered ship readiness, or is it?
I think
my definition of ship readiness and what you might be thinking are different. Right. I'm almost certain they are, but yes, that's what I'm saying. So it's very inclusive. It's a much bigger set of what I would be considering considering ship ready. So yeah.
Wait. So this is
wait.
This
Is bigger. You're very good.
This is bigger than what you would think
This
is
is bigger
ship
than
ready?
what you would think is ship ready.
That's what I'm
Yes, that's what
what would we jettison?
What would we jettison?
I'd love to jettison.
But
something.
I'd love to jettison. I mean, we have like a different discussion set up to talk about all of that stuff as well.
Okay.
So I don't. I mean, it's kind of outside of the scope of that call. So
That's fine. So
that's fine.
I want to.
I think I want to find it for me. We're saying the stuff that's in the target objective for Crowbar 2.0 is kind of where the line is, right? Things above that are must-haves. Things below that we can negotiate.
Right. So
So
the thing that I'm trying to define.
The thing that I'm trying to
between a
define is
release,
the difference between a release,
which in my opinion is a marketing.
which in my opinion is a marketing event,
and ship readiness, which is
ship
an
readiness,
engineering
which is an
statement
engineering
that
statement
the
that product works well enough
replace
to
what we have in
replace what
in
we
field.
have in the field.
Sorry, Jim. You were.
Sorry, Jim. I sort of cut you off.
No, I think you said it exactly right.
So we're just about out of time.
So we're
anyway.
just about out of time anyway.
I hope this was helpful.
I hope this was helpful. I'm expecting we'll start using this list as a test
in the next
planning meeting.
As we start looking through
where we need to focus time and effort,
and hopefully
and hopefully
focus on getting to ship readiness,
and then
start enabling
the marketing features. I shouldn't say it that way.
Start enabling the features.
The features that we've been
asked to do by customers.
By marketing by different people who have interest in what Crowbar's capabilities are.
I want to start working on
I want to start working on those features
as
soon as we can. So ship readiness is the first milestone.
Questions or comments before we
wrap up?
I have a question, just kind of internal to our team. At what point does this stuff get moved to the rally backlog?
I would expect it to move
Thursday morning.
Okay.
This should.
That's a rough estimate.
Well, this should align with
what our objectives are. I think it does, based on what I've seen our code commits doing and where people are working when they're available, based on
Dell's product
priorities.
Hopefully, this
discussion will help refine what we commit to do on our internal sprints too.
Okay, we just once we duplicate it somewhere, then we have 2 copies to keep in sync.
That is correct.
That is correct, unfortunately.
Cool. And Greg, some of that stuff I have.
In the database model. A couple things about it.
Oh, well.
No, I want you to capture it.
No, I want you to capture it. I'm just.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that there.
Cool, that's fine.
Cool, that's fine.
Because the network arc lamp's
is a major component for that.
Cool. But Jim, good point. We do need to figure out how to reconcile these lists. Yep. All right, everybody. I hope this has been helpful. I will post the links. For this into this page, and then we'll distribute it. Either Simon or I'll post it out to the Crowbar to a list to include so people have it as reference. All right, everybody. Talk to you on Thursday morning.
See you then. Thanks. Bye.